بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of commentary on al-Manzumah by Hakim Sabzewari and the commentary by Ayatummah Mutahhari. Ayatummah Mutahhari, after making those introductory points, 9 introductory points, then he says that in order to understand better this issue, let us see what both parties, those who agree and disagree with the unity of the knower and what is known, think about this. What type of understanding or mindset they have. Those who deny, like Ibn Sina, so they say Nafs is a substance. And Nafs has some quwa. Quwa is singular and quwa is plural. Some faculties, which are like instruments for Nafs. Quwa عاقل, quwa متخيلة, etc. And with the usage of these faculties, these instruments, our Nafs can understand things. These mental images or suwar that Nafs has about other things that it is going to know are like a'raz for Nafs, which is jawhar. They are accidents. They are accidents for Nafs. Means there is no essential relation. Like you have a plaster board which is white and can be made black, etc. So the color, which is araz, can change, and the essence of plasterboard is the same. So these mental images that we have, they are just a'rad. But what type of araz? Araz nafsani, because we have araz that can be araz for physical objects like color, for example, softness. When you touch something and it's soft or hard, this is araz, but it's araz mahsus, is not nafsani. But suwar ilmiye or knowledge in general is araz nafsani. It's a psychic accident. Araz nafsani. So Ayatummah Mutahhari says, for people like Ibn Sina and his followers, our nafs is like a blank paper or page, and gradually something can be painted on it. These are a'raz. On the surface you can have some paintings, but nafs doesn't change. The paper doesn't change. Ayatummah Mutahhari says, according to Mulla Sadra, if we adopt this idea, it means that the soul of a child and the soul of a child and the soul of a philosopher, the soul of a sage is the same. Just a'raz have changed. Like you have a wall, you make different painting and then you change the painting. It's the same wall. So the same nafs, the same soul for alim, hakim, and a child. Ayatollah Mutahhari says, for example, someone like Ibn Sina, at the end of his life, when in the peak of his knowledge and maturity, he wrote al-Isharat wa tanbihat. Can we say that Ibn Sina, his nafs has not changed? Having this much of knowledge didn't make him different person? Anyway, those who deny اتحاد عاقل ومعقول, the unity between the knower and what is known, they say this is the condition of nafs. An author, a writer who writes with pen and ink on paper, they say nafs is like the author and it's not affected, is not changed. Pen is like our instruments, like قوة باصرة, قوة سامعة, etc. Different faculties that we use. And nafs is like that paper, which is not changing. The author also is the knower, which is not changing. So we can use it as paper, and we can use another analogy as a writer. But those who believe in unity of عاقل and معقول, they have different attitude, different mindset. So this was about those who deny, like Ibn Sina and his followers. But those who believe, like Mulla Sadra and his followers, they say nafs is one. Faculties of nafs and mental images and nafs should be understood in the way that it's the same thing, not several things. It's not that we have nafs, we have faculties of nafs, and we have mental images as three things which are connected, which are related, but there's different things. No. Even the relation of Ghurar and Araz is not good, does not do justice according to these people. Nafs is like madde for surah. In the books like Bidayatul Hikam and Nihayatul Hikam, this discussion comes later. As I said, for example, in Bidayah is the 11th section. So it's after people have understood Madde, Surat, Ghurar, Araz, lots of things. But here it has been put in the beginning of the book because it's related to Wujud ذهنی. But because people should have already studied philosophy, so this is not the first book on philosophy. Sharh al-Manzumah was not meant to be the first book on philosophy. So he uses concepts that for a person who has just studied this much is not known. They are not known. But for those who have studied 1-2 more books and now they are going deeper, they are familiar. And so this is your case, for example. You have at least studied Bidayatul Hikmah. Some of you in London, we studied Bidayatul Hikmah after Falsafi Muqaddamati. So alhamdulillah, you have had 2 courses already, and those in Qom, maybe they have also studied other books in addition to Bidayah. So you understand what we mean by Madde and Surat and Jins and Fasl and Ghurar and Araz and these type of things. But if you want to teach this to someone, it's better to follow the order like Bidayah and Nihaya later. Anyway, people like Mulla Sadra say nafs and faculties of nafs and sowara idrakiya, mental images, they are not 3 things which are connected but essentially are independent. Each has its own full essence. No. It's like madde and surah. Surah is not like araz. Surah and madde have essential relation. surah gives ta'ayyun to madde. It's without this surah, this madde is not muta'ayyan. It's like jins without fasl. And when surah belongs to madde, it becomes a new condition, a new way of being. It's the same thing, but it's like growing, the same thing evolving or degrading if it's losing surah or getting, a surah which is not a matter of perfection. So it's one thing going upward or downward. For example, when in human development of embryo, when we have, nutfa, we have the, zygote, and then we have, alaqa, it's the clot, and then, mudgha, it's like a, meat which is, someone has been chewing it. And then, it has, bones and flesh, etc. The same madde is getting different suwar, different forms, and growing, developing. So, for these people who believe in اتحاد عاقل و معقول, they say the soul of a philosopher when he was a child, then became a teenager and a student of philosophy, etc. The soul has changed. This knowledge of philosophy is like different suwar or forms that come on, for example, the zygote or a seed of an apple that becomes an offshoot and a little, sapling, and then a tree, and then leaves, and fruits, etc. So this is their idea. So for them, knowledge is very, very much transforming us in a substantial way. Those who deny, Ayatummah Mutahhari says that the reason they deny is that because they say these are two different things. Aqil is something, Ma'qul is another thing, two different concepts, therefore two different realities. And they cannot understand here a kind of substantial change, substantial transformation. They say we have two types of changes. One is kawn of fasad. As you remember in philosophy, we said before that we have two types of taghyir, daf'i and tadriji. Daf'i is kawn of fasad, means generation and corruption, means something was there and then it's not there, but all of a sudden. This is not gradual change. But tadriji is haraka. الخروج التدريجي من القوة إلى الفعل. This is haraka. For people like Ibn Sina, haraka here is not in kam. This haraka is not in kam. Although maybe you can say, we have more knowledge and a few items, but it's not that a person is, becoming two persons. The soul has a haraka in kayf. There are four types of haraka that before Mulla Sadra was accepted, and haraka in Ghurar was not accepted. So it's a taghyir kayfi. Nafs is changing because one accident of nafs, one kayfiyya of nafs is changing, like color. But color is kayfa mahsus, ilm is kayfa nafsani. but it's changing in kayf, in quality. Kayf is aras. But those who believe in unity, they have tried to bring different arguments. These arguments are sometimes complicated, and I try to make it simple. If we believe that Nafs, or the soul, is one reality, one substance. You know, Ghurar has 5 types. One type of Ghurar is Nafs, which is mujarradun zatan, but maddiyatun fi'lan. In essence is immaterial, but in its actions is maddi. Unlike عقل, which is one type of Ghurar, not human عقل mujarrad, means completely mujarrad, is mujarradun zatan wa fi'lan, completely actual. But human soul is a type of Ghurar, which is one Ghurar, one substance, which is mujarradun zatan, but maddiyatun fi'lan. This Ghurar dhati, this mujarrad dhati, Ghurar, which is mujarrad dhati, is changing. And its change sometimes is arazi. For example, sometimes it can be moving because of its body, although Nafs doesn't have a space. But for example, because of the unity between soul and body, for example, going from one place to another place, for example. But when a person, a human soul, becomes, for example, mature, a child becomes mature, is this a change in مقولة متى, or it's more than that? If it is just change in مقولة متى, you remember مقولة متى means the hayat, which is made because of the relation with the time. Mata is different from zaman. Yeah, mata means al-hay'atul hasila min nisbat al-shay' ila zaman. So when something is in the morning or in the afternoon, mata has changed. For example, my car is parked outside in the morning, and then in the afternoon, araz has changed because the movement of sun has changed. Morning now is evening. But when a human soul becomes mature, a child becomes a teenager becomes a young person becomes a middle-aged, then becomes old. This is not change in مقولة متى. This is change inside the soul. Day and night are result of the motions of earth and sun. They are not related to our motions. But when I am child or middle age, etc., it's based on the real change in me. So I have my own time. In some discussions I have said, you might have heard me this, that I believe we have 2 types of life or age. One is for body, one is for the soul. In most of people, there is kind of a speed that that when this body has reached this much of growth, the soul also has made this much of growth. For example, if this person becomes 5 years old, the body reaches the age of 5, عاقل also reaches this much. And you don't expect from a child of 5 years old what you expect from someone who is 12 years old. But the reality is that there are two different things, and sometimes the soul can be very fast. Even at the time of birth can have maturity of someone who is 20 years old. Or can sometimes be very slow. Someone is 5 years old but understand like a 2 years old. It's possible. So soul has its own changes like time, and it can change essentially. Substantial motion is possible, and one way that Mulla Sadra and people like him want to say that soul can change is through knowledge. When we know something, if that thing is known to us through ilm huduri, of course, then it is present to us. But even if it is through ilm husuli, the mental image of that thing is present for us. So we have again ilm huduri about its knowledge. Directly we know what is outside. So that is ma'luma bil arath. But what is known first of all and primarily is this image. So the question for someone like Mulla Sadra is this, that our nafs is changing with having these images and this type of knowledge or not. He says we are changing, we are growing, we are rising a ladder with this. So someone who has very little knowledge compared to someone who has lots of knowledge are not the same. Actually, those of you who may follow our series on Insan Kamil based on Ayatummah Mutahhari's book, you remember that philosophers say that perfection of human being is in having knowledge. To become an intellectual world similar to the external world. Sayruratul insan alaman aqliyan mudahiyan lil alam al ayni. If knowledge was not affecting us except in a kind of accidental way, then how perfection be like this? That perfection is to know. If you can know everything in the world, then this is perfection. So for someone like Mulla Sadra, our nafs is really changing, is substantially, essentially changing with addition of these صور معقولة, these images. And these images are also mujarrad. Some people thought that, for example, if it's an image of something which is mahsus, then maybe not mujarrad. For example, image of a flower is different from image of a philosophical idea. But the reality is that image of all of them are mujarrad. Image is the same, yes. Ma'luma bil araz is different, but image is the same. At least I can say it's all mujarrad. Nothing which is immaterial can be known primarily. I cannot know primarily that rose flower outside. Rose flower outside is not ma'lum. everything in order to be known has to be mujarrad, and everything in order to know has also to be mujarrad. كل عاقل فهو مجرد كل معقول فهو مجرد. So the unity between Nafs and its knowledge or her knowledge is the unity between madde and a new surah that this madde adopts and become a new thing. Madde after this become a new thing. So this is the idea of people like Mulla Sadra. And as Mulla Sadra says, he says the existence of this image is a type of existence that is at the same time for Nafs. I think what I said, inshallah, is enough and clear, but I have a question for you, a kind of thing that you should do some research about it. What about those mental images which do not correspond to the reality? When I have knowledge, means my mental image corresponds to the truth, to the external world. For example, if outside is raining and I have an image of rain, that it's rain, then my knowledge is true. But if it's not raining and I mistakenly thought it's raining because I saw the road was wet and I thought it was raining, but it was not raining. Maybe a car was, pouring water, etc. So if my image, I cannot say if my knowledge is correct or not, because if that image doesn't correspond, it's not knowledge. So if this knowledge, this surah al-Ma'quleh, corresponds to the truth, it's knowledge. If not, it's jahl. So my question for you, that you do some research on it, is what type of difference people like Mulla Sadra make between a false image and a true image when it comes to unity with the soul. Is the soul always growing with its or her mental images or not? And is the way these images affect the soul the same or not? So this is something that inshallah gives you a chance to do more study of this discussion, bi'iznillah. After this discussion, Hakim Sabzewari rahmatullah alayh touches upon another issue which is very important, and that is about different types of concepts that we have. You remember we said that philosophy cannot be really understood without knowing how mind works. And you cannot understand how mind works without mastering different types of mafhum, concepts, because mind works with the concepts. If you want to know what a builder does, you have to know different materials and tools that the builder uses. So if you want to know what is the function of mind, we need to know concepts and how mind comes to these concepts. One type of concept which is very important for philosophy is what we call al-Ma'qulat al-Thaniya, and in particular al-Ma'qulat al-Thaniya al-Falsafiyya. So the title of the next lesson is Ma'qulat al-Thaniya. In the list that we had, 17 things that we had, number 8 is Ma'qulat al-Thaniya, because the discussion about اتحاد عقل و معقول was about وجود ذهنی. It was a follow-up or continuity of وجود ذهنی, mental existence. So what is معقولات ثانية? A very well-known and classic way that Muslim philosophers have differentiated different types of mafhum is what I am saying now. And this is very important, and this is one of the things that we benefit a lot from in philosophy, in others even disciplines like usul, etc. And many other schools of philosophy don't have such clear recognition. Maybe they understand that there is a difference, but they haven't so well classified. One of our brothers who did his PhD, in a Western university, then he found that it was very difficult for him to explain this to people in his department, and later he wrote a book on معقول ثانية فلسفي. So we say those things which we are understanding are our mental images, or you can say mafhum. Mafahim are sometimes mahubi, and we easily can get them. For example, I look at Zayd and Amr and Bakr, 3 human beings, and I see there is something common among them. For example, it is their humanity. So I have mafhum insan. Then I look at some human beings, an elephant and horse, then I, for example, say, oh, there is haywaniya, there is this concept of being animal, which is common. And then each of them has its own exclusive aspect, which is their differentia. So by looking at things, considering them and their commonalities and differences, we come up with some concepts which refer to their mahiyya. These mahiyat can be jawhar, can be aras. We call them al-ma'qulat al-ula, or al-mafahim al-mahawiyya. These are the first intelligibles. And here the process that mind follows is called tajrid. Tajrid. Because mind can easily leave aside what is not common and say, okay, these things which are not common between Zayd and Amr and Bakr are not a matter of humanity, because humanity is common. So these are outside. Humanity is this common thing between them. Tajrid. Like you peel an orange. Here also you peel humanity from additional things. But then there is another level of mind functioning, that is through the process of what we call al-intizar, abstraction. Mind looks at Zayd, Amr, Bakr, animals, I don't know, objects, and finds that they are all contingent, they are all mumkin. Zayd and back are mumkin, animals are mumkin, pen is mumkin, contingent. But to come to recognition of imkan in them is more difficult than recognizing humanity between Zayd and Amr and Bakr. Imkan is not part of their mahiyya. Imkan is not no or jins or fasl. Imkan is something that you have to deeply think and abstract. In some texts they say ta'ammul with ayn, not with hamza. Ta'ammul with hamza means reflection. Ta'ammul means action. Soul has to work hard to come up with these abstracted concepts. Okay, these are called al-Ma'qulat al-Thaniya, secondary intelligibles. And when we say Thaniya, means not ula. So sometimes maybe it goes to 2 more levels, but we don't call it al-Ma'qulat al-Thalitha or Rabi'a. We call it Thaniya. Thaniya means not ula. Secondary intelligibles are divided into 2. Al-Ma'qulat al-Thaniyat al-Mantiqiyya and al-Ma'qulat al-Thaniyat al-Falsafiyya. Those which are used in the science of logic, studied in the science of logic, normally these are called logical secondary intelligibles. Like for example, mafhum of naw', jins, fasl, kulli, juz'i. Normally these mafahim are studied in logic and they are abstracted by mind, but they are not applicable to the things which are outside. Something which is outside, it's not kulli. Even we don't say juz'i. If you say juz'i, means you are extending and expanding the meaning. Otherwise, kulli and juz'i are 2 types of mafhum. I cannot say Zayd is juz'i. Mafhum of Zayd is juz'i. So kulli, juz'i, no, jins, fasl, these are things that are abstracted by our mind and can be used only also for concepts. So they are used also in mind. But imkan, wujub, wujud, haraka, بالقوة, بالفعل, these are concepts that at the same time that our mind abstracts them, but they can be applied to the things which are outside. I can say Zayd is mumkin, Allah is wajib. Something, for example, I say Zayd is بالفعل a writer or بالقوة a writer. Something is moving, it's mutaharrik. Haraka is not a mahiyya. This is called Ma'qulat al-Thaniya Falsafi. In order to explain this with more technicality, we can use these terms. Mafahim mahubi are those things that in the external world they belong to something and we can also apply them there. Uruz fil kharij, ittisaf fil kharij. Uruz, like haml or belonging, both of them. Here we can say belonging. If it is in ذهن, it's like حمل. اتصاف الخارج, it means that something which is outside, external, can take this. When you are referring to someone and say this person is a human being, means that external person, reality, is a human being. مفاهیم منطقی عروض في الذهن, اتصاف also في الذهن. كليات and جزئيات are in mind, and they belong to the things which are in mind. مفاهیم فلسفی عروض في الذهن, اتصاف في الخارج. Because in outside, امکان doesn't come as like an araz that belongs to something. امکان is not like that. امکان is not something additional. امکان is in mind separated from mahiyya. Otherwise, امکان is like inside. We say محمول من صميمه, not محمول بالضميمه. So, امکان is abstracted by our mind. Its belonging is in the mind. Separation and then belonging happens in the mind. But we can apply it to the external things. اتصاف في الخارج. So something which is outside, we can say it's ممكن, or واجب, or متحرك, or بالقوة, or بالفعل. So this is the difference between three major types of concepts: المعقولات الأولى, المعقولات الثانية المنطقية, and المعقولات الثانية الفلسفية. Please study this well, and then inshallah in the next week we will see what Hakim Sabzewari and Ayatummah Mutahhari say, and also we would have a follow-up for the discussion about اتحاد عقل و عاقل و معقول with respect to the question that I raised. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.